In this class of business environment and ethical practices, we'll be learning about price spiral, or what we call it wage price spiral. The wage price spiral is a macroeconomic theory used to explain the cause and effect relationship between the rising wages and rising prices, or inflation, what it is called. The wage price spiral suggests that rising wages increase disposable income, raising the demand for goods and causing prices to rise. It is quite obvious that in a certain economy, if the wages increase, the receiver, or the like one who is receiving the wages will try to utilize the increased amount somewhere, either in the forms of saving or in the form of investments, or he or she will spend that money. If the third condition is fulfilled, then obviously it will give rise, it will ultimately result in increase in demand of goods and services. And in most of the cases, third option is opted first. Like if anybody's income increases, the increased amount is utilized to buy new goods and services. Rising prices demand for higher wages, which leads to higher production cost and further upward pressure on prices, creating a conceptual spiral. We can Let's look at it from the very beginning. If the wages increase, the demand will increase because people have more disposable income with them to spend on buying goods and services. So ultimately, the demand will rise. If the demand rises, the producers will increase the prices. If they increase the prices, the people working in the organization ask for raise in wages again. If the wages are raised, then ultimately they have more disposable income with them, and eventually they'll demand for more goods and services, which ultimately results in increase in demand. So it becomes a cycle, it becomes a conceptual spiral actually. It is essentially a perpetual loop or cycle of consistent price increases. The wage price spiral reflects the cause and consequences of inflation, and it is therefore characteristics of Keynesian economic theory. It is also known as the cost push origin of inflation. Another cost of inflation is known as demand pull inflation, which monetary theorists believe originates with the money supply. So let's focus on the wage spiral only here. So the ultimate idea is that if due to any reason wages increase, it will ultimately lead to the increase in inflation, and since the people will be asking for more goods and services, prices of the commodities will increase, and ultimately the factors of production will be paid more, and it becomes a complete cycle, and this entire process is called wage price spiral. Now let's have a look at how wage price spiral takes place. A wage price spiral is caused by the effect of supply and demand on aggregate prices. People who earn more than the cost of living select an allocation mix between saving and consumer spendings. As wages increase, so too does a consumer's propensity to both save and consume. If the minimum wages of an economy are increased, for example, it would cause consumers within the economy to purchase more product, which would increase demand. The rise in aggregate demand and the increased wage burden causes businesses to increase the prices of products and services. Although wages are higher, the increase in price causes workers to demand even higher salary. So initially they were getting higher salary, and now since the prices are higher for goods and services, they are asking for another hike. If higher wages are granted, a spiral where prices subsequently increase may occur, repeating the cycle until wage levels can no longer be supported. So ultimately, what the baseline is that it will happen again and again unless the demand for rise in wages is not accepted. Let's have a look at the this image. It will give a better understanding. like let's look at the lower left side of the image. Wage rise, which results in cost of production rises, and since the cost of production is rising for the producer, he will charge the same in prices, so prices will also have to be rise. And if prices are rising, cost of living will rise, and if cost of living is rising, uh, the employees will demand for raise in their income. Wages chase price and price chase wages, creating a wage price spiral. Workers attempt to protect their real wages by pushing for higher money or nominal wages. Now comes the question how this can be checked. Because if it goes on and on and on, it will create a phenomena wherein inflation can go to much higher levels, which is not healthy for the economy. As we have learned earlier, also inflation can be divided into two categories. First is the crawling inflation, wherein the rate of inflation is somewhere around 0 to 3%. Next level is walking inflation, which is around 3% to 6 or 7%, which is considered to be a healthy rate of inflation. Then comes a running inflation. Running inflation is something in between 7 to 15 or 20%. And the next level or the extreme level is hyperinflation, wherein the prices of commodities increase by more than 20%, and it can go to like 50, 100 or whatnot. So if this wage price spiral is continued, it can lead to hyperinflation, which can hamper the growth of the economy, and the entire economic system or the mechanism may break down. So in order to avoid that, uh, certain measures have to be taken so that this wage price spiral can be checked well in time. For that, governments and economies favor stable inflation or price increases. A wage price spiral often makes inflation higher than is ideal. So governments have the option of stopping this inflationary environment through the action of the Federal Reserve or central bank. Now, what all steps can be taken? A country's central bank can use monetary policy, the interest rate, reserve requirements, or open market operations to curb the wage price spiral. Let's understand it. Suppose there's a specific rate of interest prevailing in the market at which commercial banks are lending to its customers. Say, for instance, the rate is 8%. If the wage price thing is happening, what the Reserve Bank can do, Reserve Bank can increase the rate of interest, so that the commercial banks have lesser capacity to lend money in the market, which ultimately reduces the buying capacity of the general public. Government can also increase taxes, although it's not part of directly the monetary policy, it is part of fiscal policy, but it is one more tool. Or it can opt for a market operation, open market operation, wherein the central bank or the government basically issues securities or bonds which can be purchased by the commercial banks or general public. The basic idea is to reduce the liquidity in the market, because if the liquidity is higher, inflation will happen for sure. So the basic idea is to opt any measure which can ultimately help the government to reduce the liquidity, so that people, even if they are earning more, their extra earnings are deposited somewhere and it doesn't get into circulation again and again, because if that happens, inflation will take place. So in this way, both the purpose can be solved. Even if the people are earning higher wages or they are earning good amount of money, the central bank can adopt many measures. It can also utilize the reserve requirements of the banks, like SLR and CRR. It can increase the SLR, statutory liquidity ratio, and CRR, cash reserve ratio, so that the lending capacity of the commercial banks is limited, and eventually it will lead to control of wage price spiral. Thank you.